How has your sleep been lately? Well, sleep can really suffer during menopause, but there are things we can do to help. So here are some of my top tips for a great bedtime routine during menopause. So there are 6 things that I want to share with you today that 6 things to avoid that can help your sleep, and also 6 things that you can add to help your sleep in. So the reason that we want to do these is that sleep can be disrupted in menopause, but more importantly, we want to get the foundation right. Just waiting for that noise to stop outside. So point number 1, this is the first point that can hurt your sleep. Avoid bright lights 2 hours before bed. And why bright lights? Because there is a lot of blue light frequency in bright lights. It's the same as that we get during the day in sunlight. So if you're getting exposed to that at night, then the body anticipates that it is daytime and not nighttime. And this interferes with our production of melatonin, which we need in order to sleep. So first point, avoid bright light because of its impact on melatonin. If you do have use of screens and other things that have bright lights, then consider some blue light blocker glasses to help mitigate this. Noise. Now, genes can really affect how prone you are to noise disruption at night or disruptions during sleep. But even so, avoiding noisy environments or wearing earplugs, if you feel that is you, is important to get good quality sleep. Heat. Well, if you've experienced any hot flushes, then you'll know about this one. But the body has to cool before it can enter its sleep phases. So working at interventions that improve your body temperature at night. So if you've got an air conditioner or a fan that can help control the temperature, or things like cooling pads, which you can actually buy and put into your bed to cool you down. Point number 4 is alcohol. Now, we think of alcohol as something that can help us relax, but what it actually does is interfere with the quality of our sleep, and it can impact us later in the night. So just trying to minimize your alcohol intake, even if you do have something like a glass of wine with dinner, but also trying to remove that away from your sleep time by about 3 hours so it has time to metabolize. Once again, genes can determine how quickly you metabolize alcohol, and we can understand this. On the same vein, caffeine. So caffeine too close to bedtime can be very impactful, and once again, genetics play a role here. So if you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine, interestingly, it'll also make you a slow metabolizer of our sleep hormone, melatonin. But if you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine, then keep that away from the afternoon intake. And if you're going to have caffeine, then in the morning is better. But once again, knowing how caffeine impacts you can help you make that decision. And then this is a compound that very few people, I'm sure, know about, but it is really significant on sleep. And it's a compound that is very natural. It's actually an amino acid that occurs in, and amino acids are the building block of all the proteins which we consume. And it becomes an issue when it's freed up in our food supply. So it's not necessarily an issue when it occurs naturally in foods where it's bound up, but once it is processed out and added back into our food supply, and it does this as a natural compound, then it can create dramatic effects for some people with sleep. And this once again depends on the gene variants that you have to metabolize this particular compound. So the compound is called glutamate, and it's free glutamates in food that are really substantially impactful. And if you think tired but wired here, you're on the right track. So it's used ubiquitously in the food industry, firstly because it is natural, but secondly because it encourages consumption of food. So it encourages us to eat more of something. So as you can imagine, it's added a lot into a lot of foods to create this effect. And it has a umami taste, which is kind of like a savory, I want to eat more sort of taste. So maybe you can think of a food that that you really like, well, I'd be thinking, does this have some of that compound in it? So for more information on this, because it has many names, free glutamate goes by many names, and it will be in a lot of processed foods that you may not be aware of. So look out for our next Facebook Live on that one. All right, so how can we help improve our sleep? Exercise, and if you haven't watched the Facebook Live on exercise yet, it'll be in the video, so have a look at that, because it will give you an idea of when to exercise. But exercise in the morning sets you up for sleep at night, so just being aware even of this. Consistent bedtime, so going to sleep at the same time every night is really important for the human body, because we are one big clock. We're entrained by the light-dark cycle, we're entrained by the timing of when we eat foods, and we're in training and entrained by our normal sleep time. So the body gets used to it and it becomes efficient. It goes, right, you normally sleep now, that's when I'm going to start my processes. So the same bedtime helps. Melatonin, so as mentioned before, it can be a problem because light breaks it down. So absence of blue signals enables melatonin production for sleep. So that's blue light signals. So if you are getting exposed to light late at night, then that becomes a problem. You can also take melatonin as a supplement, and melatonin is something that we produce less of, particularly as we approach 50 and beyond. And once again, genetics have a role in how well you make melatonin, how well you absorb it, how well you break it down. And as I mentioned before, caffeine and melatonin break down similarly. So slow caffeine metabolizes, slow melatonin metabolizes. All right, magnesium. If you're deficient in magnesium, it can have an impact on your sleep. But magnesium is important too, because a particular form of it called magnesium glycinate has a beneficial effect if you've been exposed to glutamates and you're sensitive to them. And once again, genes play a role in glutamate sensitivity. Lavender. So lavender has properties that improve sleep through their ability to impact stress, and stress of course can impact our sleep as well. Lavender has estrogenic properties, so just being aware that they appear to have some sort of mechanism that raises estrogen. So something, not necessarily that we're worried about that, but particularly for men in this case, there has been evidence of lavender use increasing breast production. So clearly there's some sensitivity there, and just something to be aware of. So lavender has its evidence in its reduction in stress, and of course stress reduction is really important for good quality sleep as best we can. So just want to finalize this by talking about some of the most significant effects, significant food sources, I should say, of glutamates, because one of these caught me out the other month, and I was eating something at 6 o'clock at night and I was awake at 2 in the morning, and I've worked out now what it was. So avoid significant sources of glutamate, and these can include sources that you might use in a marinade, so a stir fry sauce for example. Think about those savory, rich, flavoursome tastes, and we're thinking there's possibly glutamates here, free glutamates. Meal replacements and protein shakes, because when you dehydrate a protein, such as milk protein, you expose the free glutamates, and milk powder added back into things is a source of this. So foods with savoury flavourings that I mentioned before, and this one for these two, next two for people who follow a vegan diet, because that has the potential to be really high in glutamate, free glutamates too. Textured vegetable protein, or hydrolyzed protein as it's sometimes called, is used as a meat replacement in a lot of vegan foods, very high in free glutamates. And the one that caught me out recently, nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast is a flavour that's added in in my case, it was actually a home-baked product, which was a seed cracker, which only had seeds and water and olive oil, but it was the flavouring. and that had profound effects on my sleep. And I'm only moderately impacted in my genetics through glutamate. So someone who has significant impacts is going to be potentially a lot more sensitive. So before I go, what's your favorite bedtime ritual? And what helps you sleep when nothing else works? Please share below so that we can help other women. Bye for now.